The entire royal court of Aetheria fell into stunned silence the moment the human engineer placed his palm firmly over Queen Alara Vossin's sacred royal crest and said, "Hold steady, please, Your Majesty. This looks like it's losing a bit of pressure. I can stabilize it right here if I just give it a quick adjustment." Marcus Hale froze as the words left his mouth, his heart suddenly pounding louder than the subtle hum of the magnetic fields around him. Only minutes earlier, he had stepped off the shuttle ramp, his sturdy boots sinking gently into the soft, iridescent moss that carpeted every surface of the docking platform. The twin suns bathed everything in a warm, dual-toned glow that made the air itself seem alive with possibility. As a straightforward engineer from Earth's bustling shipyards, Marcus was far more comfortable surrounded by diagnostic tools, greasy engine components, and the familiar rumble of heavy machinery than in the elegant formal tunic now clinging awkwardly to his broad shoulders. The garment felt stiff and restrictive, pulling at his frame in ways that made him want to tug at the collar repeatedly, though he resisted the urge in front of the assembled dignitaries. Perched securely on his left shoulder was Pip, the tiny Aetherian companion creature assigned to him as a personal guide. No bigger than the palm of a human hand, Pip was a delightful blend of scaled lizard and feathered bird, with delicate wings that fluttered expressively for emphasis and a slender tail that swished playfully whenever he found something amusing. During the long voyage from Earth, the little creature had transformed from a simple escort into an unexpected and loyal friend, filling the hours with a constant stream of helpful advice mixed with sharp, witty commentary that kept Marcus grounded. "You keep fussing with that collar, and you'll look like a tangled power cable," Pip had chirped softly just moments before they disembarked, his high-pitched voice carrying just enough volume for Marcus alone to hear clearly. "Relax, big guy. This is supposed to be a simple tech visit, not a parade. You're here to tune up their fancy propulsion systems, not impress the whole planet with your fashion sense." Marcus had let out a quiet chuckle at the time, grateful for the small voice cutting through his growing nerves. He had come to Aetheria expecting a focused, low-key assignment, assisting with maintenance on the royal fleet's advanced propulsion systems, which had been experiencing troubling fluctuations. No one had warned him that the role would thrust him directly into the heart of the royal court for a formal welcome ceremony under the watchful eyes of the planet's elite. Now the welcome committee waited ahead in a precise, elegant line, their tall, graceful figures draped in flowing robes that caught and reflected the ambient light like living tapestries woven from starlight itself. The world of Aetheria stretched out in breathtaking, almost overwhelming detail all around them. Towering crystal spires floated serenely in the distance, connected by glowing energy bridges that hummed with controlled power. Rivers of liquid light defied gravity, flowing upward in gentle arcs toward distant, mist-shrouded mountains, nourishing floating gardens bursting with flora that pulsed in soft, ever-shifting colors responsive to the emotions of those nearby. The air carried a faint, pleasant hum of magnetic fields, intertwined with the sweet, invigorating scent of blooming plants that seemed to sing in harmony with the environment. As the lead attendant announced Marcus's arrival in a clear, melodic tone that resonated across the platform, he straightened his posture and offered a respectful bow, taking care not to jostle Pip. The little companion peeked out curiously from behind his ear, his wide eyes taking in the scene with obvious fascination. Then she appeared. Queen Alara Vossin moved forward with effortless grace that commanded the entire space without effort. Her presence was both regal and warmly inviting, with silver-streaked hair cascading elegantly down her back and eyes that sparkled with quiet, penetrating intelligence. Her gown flowed like captured starlight, shimmering with subtle inner radiance, and upon her right shoulder gleamed the prominent royal crest, an intricate circular emblem etched with complex patterns that pulsed steadily with a vibrant blue energy. To Marcus's trained technician eyes, honed by years of troubleshooting everything from cargo haulers to experimental drives in the noisy, high-pressure shipyards of Earth, the crest looked exactly like a standard pressure valve from the engine schematics he had studied during the journey. It even had that subtle flicker, a telltale sign of minor alignment issues or potential heat buildup that could lead to inefficiency or worse if left unaddressed, especially given the reports of dangerous fluctuations plaguing the royal fleet. The court watched in complete attentive silence. Pip peeked out wider, clearly intrigued. When the crest dimmed for the briefest second in a way that screamed mechanical fault to his instincts, Marcus acted without a second thought. He reached out and placed his palm firmly over the glowing emblem, applying gentle, precise pressure exactly as he would to reseat a loose valve and restore proper energy flow. The entire hall descended into absolute silence. Queen Ilara's eyes widened in genuine surprise, her crest flaring brighter and more intensely beneath his steady touch. Pip let out a tiny, startled squeak and scrambled deeper into the protective folds of Marcus's tunic, his small body trembling slightly. Marcus froze, the realization crashing over him like a sudden diagnostic alert, flashing red on a control panel. This was no ordinary repair valve at all. It was the Queen's sacred rank marking, a revered symbol of her authority, lineage, and connection to Aetheria's ancient living energies. "Why is your palm on my crest, human?" Queen Ilara asked, her voice remaining steady and resonant, yet laced with a hint of genuine intrigue that cut through the stunned quiet like a clear signal through static. The words lingered heavily in the air as every eye in the vast court turned toward them. Marcus slowly withdrew his hand, his face warming with deep embarrassment. He had only meant to help, his practical earth-trained habits clashing instantly and publicly with centuries of Aetherian custom in the most unexpected way possible. Pip peeked out cautiously once more, his small form still trembling with a mix of alarm and reluctant excitement. The committee members exchanged subtle glances, the charged atmosphere thick with unspoken questions and rising tension. Marcus could sense that this one instinctive action, born purely from a simple, well-meaning mistake, might have sparked something far larger than a mere technical fix, especially now, with the Royal Fleet's propulsion systems showing increasingly dangerous fluctuations that threatened stability across the realm, if not resolved soon. The little companion settled back onto his shoulder after a moment, murmuring softly in his high voice, "Well, that was one way to make an entrance, big guy." Marcus could only nod mutely, wondering what would come next after such an unexpected and potentially disruptive start to his mission. The royal hall remained hushed for several long seconds after Marcus withdrew his hand from the Queen's crest. Queen Ilara Vosin studied him carefully with those sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to weigh every subtle detail of his expression and posture. Instead of the outrage or offense he had half expected in that tense moment, a faint spark of amusement danced across her regal features, softening the elegant lines of her face. The glowing emblem on her shoulder continued to pulse steadily once more, its blue light now carrying a noticeably warmer tone that matched the subtle shift in her overall posture. Pip, still perched securely on Marcus's shoulder, let out a tiny relieved whistle and gave the engineer a light, encouraging tap with his feathered tail. "Nice one, valve fixer," the little companion whispered, his voice dripping with playful sarcasm. "You just turned a simple greeting into a full hands-on inspection. Classic human move if I've ever seen one." Marcus kept his breathing even and controlled, fighting the strong urge to apologize profusely, right there in front of the entire assembled court. He had arrived on Aetheria as a technical advisor, invited specifically to address the troubling and escalating issues with the Royal Fleet's propulsion systems. The last thing he wanted was to cause an interstellar incident on his very first day through an honest misunderstanding. The welcome committee shifted slightly in place, their elegant robes rustling like wind, passing through delicate crystal chimes, all of them clearly waiting for the Queen's reaction to set the tone for everything that would follow. Queen Ilara finally broke the heavy silence with a measured voice that carried both undeniable authority and open curiosity. "Your instincts appear to be those of a true engineer, Marcus Hale of Earth. Few would dare touch a royal crest without formal invitation, yet you did so with the calm confidence of someone simply correcting a vital system that needed attention." She tilted her head slightly to one side, the crest catching the ambient light in a way that made it shimmer, like living circuitry responding to an unseen current. "Tell me, do all humans approach the unknown by attempting immediate repairs, even when the stakes involve sacred traditions?" Marcus managed a small, self-conscious smile, his practical nature pushing him to respond with complete honesty rather than polished, diplomatic phrasing. "Only when something looks like it might fail soon, Your Majesty. Back home in the shipyards, if a component flickers or shows even the slightest sign of instability like that, you step in and fix it right away before it turns into a much bigger problem. Especially when an entire fleet could be at risk. I meant no disrespect at all. It just looked so familiar from the schematics I studied on the way here. Pip nodded his small head vigorously from his shoulder perch, adding in his clear, high-pitched tone, "He really is like that with everything, Your Majesty. Once during the voyage he tried to repair my nesting pod using nothing but sturdy tape and sheer optimism. It actually held together longer than expected." A few soft, genuine chuckles rippled through the attendants at this, easing the lingering tension in the hall, just enough for everyone to breathe a little easier. The Queen's expression warmed even further, her eyes meeting Marcus's with an openness and interest that genuinely surprised him. She gestured gracefully toward a nearby floating platform that served as a more private receiving area, inviting him to walk with her, while the rest of the court maintained a respectful distance behind them. As they moved together along the gently humming energy bridge, the full unique beauty of Aetheria's landscape unfolded beneath and around them in vivid, almost hypnotic detail. Towering spires of translucent crystal rose majestically toward the sky, connected by intricate pathways that resonated with controlled magnetic fields. Rivers of pure liquid light flowed in graceful, impossible arcs, defying all conventional gravity as they nourished vast floating gardens filled with flowers that shifted colors dynamically based on the emotions and energies of those passing nearby. Marcus found himself glancing occasionally at the Queen's Crest again, this time with careful, newfound respect, quietly noting how its intricate patterns seemed almost alive, pulsing in rhythm with her thoughts and the world itself. Pip settled more comfortably on his shoulder, occasionally pointing out fascinating small details with his tiny claws. "See that glowing vine over there? It sings softly if you listen closely enough. And maybe don't stare too long at the crest now, or we'll both end up preserved as curious exhibits in the Royal Archives." Queen Alara overheard the comment and let out a soft, genuine laugh that echoed lightly and beautifully across the energy bridge. "Your small companion speaks with such refreshing honesty and wit. Most visitors who come to Aetheria arrive armed with carefully scripted words and hidden agendas meant to serve their own interests. You, however, arrive with open hands, an even more open heart, and a willingness to act directly when you see something that appears out of alignment, a quality that stands out sharply against our more measured traditions." Marcus felt a flush of unexpected warmth at the observation, realizing that Pip's constant, lively presence had already begun turning what could have been an impossibly stiff and formal first meeting into something far more personal, approachable, and human. The conversation continued to flow naturally and comfortably as they reached the receiving platform, where hover seats adjusted automatically and smoothly to their individual forms for maximum comfort. Queen Alara took the opportunity to explain in greater detail that Aetheria had long maintained careful, time-honored protocols for all interactions with off-world visitors, particularly those bringing technical expertise that might influence the realm. The recent and increasingly concerning fluctuations in the Royal Fleet's propulsion systems had finally prompted the formal invitation for an Earth engineer like Marcus, yet no one among the advisors could have anticipated such a direct, personal and memorable first impression. Marcus listened attentively, nodding as he shared more expansive stories from his years of hands-on work back home, from repairing massive cargo haulers under tight deadlines in noisy shipyards to troubleshooting experimental drives that pushed the very limits of known engineering. Pip chimed in at precisely the right moments with his tiny observations, lightening the overall mood and drawing occasional smiles from the Queen. Yet even beneath this pleasant and increasingly engaging exchange, Marcus could sense the subtle but undeniable weight of unspoken expectations hanging in the air. The court's occasional glances and murmured discussions suggested that his impulsive touch on the sacred crest had already ignited quiet debates about the balance between cherished tradition and the potential value of practical innovation. Debates made all the more urgent by the fleet's propulsion problems, which threatened to disrupt vital trade routes and defensive readiness if they worsened. Queen Alara leaned forward slightly on her hover seat, her voice dropping to a more intimate and thoughtful tone. "Your bold action today challenges some of our oldest customs in a way I have not witnessed in many cycles. It may well lead to formal evaluations to determine whether such directness ultimately serves our growing alliance or risks disrupting the delicate harmony we have maintained for so long, particularly while the fleet's systems hover on the edge of more serious failure. Marcus nodded solemnly, fully understanding now that his simple, well-intentioned mistake had opened a significant door to something much larger and more consequential than anyone had planned. Pip gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze with his small claws. "We've handled tougher situations than court evaluations before, right? Just keep those sharp repair instincts ready when the moment calls for them." The following morning brought Marcus and Pip to the grand evaluation chamber, a vast and awe-inspiring hall constructed entirely of living crystal that responded dynamically to the emotions of everyone inside by shifting through soft, mesmerizing spectra of color. Hovering platforms were arranged in a gentle arc, allowing the royal advisors to observe proceedings closely, while Queen Elara presided with calm authority from a central elevated seat. Marcus stood before them in a freshly provided formal tunic that felt slightly less restrictive than the one from the day before, though he still caught himself tugging at the sleeves out of long habit. Pip remained firmly perched on his shoulder, his small wings fluttering occasionally to maintain perfect balance as the chamber's subtle gravity fields adjusted around them. The little companion had spent much of the night offering a steady mix of encouragement and his signature witty remarks, helping Marcus mentally prepare for what promised to be a thorough series of structured compatibility assessments. These evaluations were traditionally required whenever an off-worlder's actions challenged established royal protocols, and today they would carefully determine whether Marcus's technical expertise could genuinely benefit Aetheria amid the ongoing propulsion crisis, or whether his direct hands-on nature posed too great a risk to the realm's deeply rooted traditions. The first evaluation began in the Chamber of Resonating Echoes, a labyrinthine space where spoken thoughts and inner doubts manifested visibly as colorful sound waves that bounced back as personalized challenges designed to test resolve. Marcus stepped inside with Pip clinging tightly to his collar, the tiny creature's tail swishing nervously. As they ventured deeper into the echoing paths, fragments of Marcus's own voice replayed his private doubts about fitting into such an advanced and elegant society. What makes an ordinary engineer from a distant world think he can truly understand or improve royal systems that have endured for generations? One echoing voice questioned, the words forming swirling, luminous patterns of light that pressed in from all sides. Pip responded before Marcus could even gather his thoughts, his high voice cutting through the resonance with surprising clarity and conviction. Because ordinary engineers like him fix things that others overlook or accept as inevitable, especially when everything is about to break down at the worst possible time. Bolstered by the little companion's unwavering loyalty, Marcus found the confidence to answer with honest, grounded reflections drawn from his real experiences on Earth. He spoke of how practical, step-by-step problem-solving had repeatedly resolved complex issues in multi-species shipyard crews where cultures and technologies often clashed. The echoes gradually softened and shifted in tone, moving from confrontational challenges to more curious inquiries as Marcus demonstrated his genuine ability to listen, adapt, and offer solutions without forcing them. When they finally emerged from the chamber successfully, the royal advisors noted the positive outcome with measured approval, though a few still murmured quietly among themselves about the importance of deeper cultural alignment beyond mere technical skill. Pip puffed out his small chest proudly, whispering, "See, teamwork makes the dream work, even in tricky echo caves like that one." The second evaluation moved to the Circle of Shared Perspectives, an open area where the advisors posed increasingly layered and thoughtful questions specifically designed to test emotional intelligence and true cross-cultural understanding. Marcus found himself addressing complex inquiries about the delicate balance between bold innovation and deep respect for ancient customs that had sustained Aetheria through countless cycles. He drew on simple yet effective analogies from his years working alongside diverse crews on Earth, explaining concepts like collaborative repairs where different species contributed unique strengths without one overriding the others. Pip occasionally added small but insightful comments, from an Aetherian viewpoint he had absorbed during their shared voyage, creating a natural and balanced dialogue that visibly impressed several of the observers. Queen Elara watched the entire process closely from her seat, her royal crest glowing with a steady, rhythmic light that suggested growing personal interest in the proceedings. One senior advisor pressed harder than the rest, asking directly whether a human's characteristically direct approach might unintentionally erode royal authority and symbolic traditions over time, if allowed too much influence. Marcus replied thoughtfully and without hesitation, emphasizing that real strength in any system, whether mechanical or societal, often emerged from thoughtfully combining different ways of thinking rather than allowing one to dominate completely. Especially, he added quietly, when the fleet's propulsion issues are already demanding every possible advantage we can bring together before they escalate further. The Queen nodded subtly in response, her expression revealing a quiet but unmistakable appreciation for his sincerity and practical wisdom. As the session drew to a successful close, Pip gave Marcus a celebratory nudge with his small head. "You're getting noticeably better at this fancy diplomatic talk. Just don't start sounding too much like one of them, or I'll have to tease you twice as much to keep you grounded." By the time the third and final evaluation loomed, the stakes had risen noticeably for everyone involved. This decisive test took place within the Veil of Decisive Moments, a highly sophisticated simulation environment that presented vivid, high-pressure scenarios requiring clear, immediate choices between personal connections and broader galactic responsibilities. Marcus and Pip entered the Veil together, with the little companion now serving as both steadfast moral support and an active participant in the unfolding events. The simulation came alive with detailed holographic projections depicting potential conflicts where Marcus's growing rapport with the Queen and the Aetherian people might influence critical decisions affecting entire fleets, alliances, and the safety of countless lives. In one particularly intense sequence, Marcus faced a difficult choice that tested whether he would prioritize a budding understanding and friendship with Aetheria's ruler, or safeguard a larger, more fragile peace agreement amid flashing warnings of propulsion system failures across multiple vessels. Pip stayed close by his side throughout, offering soft but timely words of encouragement whenever doubt or hesitation crept in. The tiny creature's reassuring presence served as a constant reminder that genuine bonds could ultimately strengthen resolve rather than weaken it. Drawing deeply on his core Earth values of honesty, practical care, and the belief that small fixes today prevent major disasters tomorrow, Marcus made the measured choice that honored both personal connection and wider responsibility. The simulation resolved with a balanced, positive outcome that left the advisors visibly moved as the holographic projections slowly faded away. Queen Elara rose gracefully from her central seat as they exited the Veil, addressing the gathered council with calm, authoritative clarity. These evaluations have revealed far more than simple technical skill or adaptability. They demonstrate a sincere willingness to grow alongside our established ways, while offering fresh, practical perspectives, particularly valuable at a time when our fleet requires every reliable advantage to overcome its current challenges. Some advisors continued to express lingering concerns about potential long-term implications for Aetherian traditions, suggesting that additional careful review might still be necessary before any deeper or more permanent alliance could be fully formed. Marcus felt the weight of their ongoing scrutiny, yet he also clearly sensed a meaningful shift in the chamber's overall atmosphere, moving steadily toward cautious but genuine optimism. Pip settled more comfortably on his shoulder, murmuring softly, "We passed the big tests with flying colors, but something tells me the real challenges are only just beginning to reveal themselves." As the group dispersed briefly for a short recess, Queen Elara approached Marcus in a more private corner of the hall. Her voice carried a note of sincere warmth that had not been present at the very start. "Your actions continue to intrigue me greatly, Engineer. What began as a simple and honest misunderstanding may yet open important pathways that we have long kept carefully closed, especially now, with the propulsion systems continuing to show signs of deeper instability that demand innovative solutions." The political discussions began in earnest during the next cycle within the Grand Conclave chamber, where representatives from Aetheria's most influential noble houses had gathered alongside a small number of selected off-world observers. Marcus stood at the center platform with Pip balanced securely on his shoulder, the tiny companion scanning the room alertly with his sharp eyes and occasionally adjusting his grip on the engineer's tunic for comfort. The air hummed gently with low, soothing energy currents that carried subtle scents of calming herbs intended to promote clear and focused thinking among all present. Queen Alara presided from her elevated throne with composed dignity, her royal crest glowing with a steady, controlled light that reflected her firm mastery over the proceedings. Advisors presented a range of formal concerns about how an outsider's unconventional methods might gradually influence or even alter long-standing traditions, with several voices stressing the critical importance of maintaining strong cultural boundaries to preserve stability across the entire realm, particularly while the fleet's propulsion fluctuations posed an escalating risk to trade, defense, and daily life. Marcus listened with careful attention, consciously resisting any urge to interrupt with immediate suggestions, while Pip whispered occasional quiet reminders to remain patient and measured in all his responses. As the debate progressed thoughtfully, one senior advisor raised the possibility that Marcus's presence and approach could inspire broader, positive changes in how technical expertise was thoughtfully integrated into royal operations without undermining their foundations. The discussion naturally turned toward the specific recent fluctuations affecting the royal fleet's propulsion systems, where traditional diagnostic methods had so far struggled to pinpoint and resolve the root causes despite repeated efforts. Marcus was invited to share his detailed observations, and he described potential alignment and energy flow issues using language that carefully bridged technical precision with deep respect for Aetheria's sophisticated engineering heritage. Pip contributed in his own modest but effective way by highlighting a minor but relevant detail he had noticed during their earlier tour of the facilities, describing it lightly as a tiny hiccup hiding inside a very big and important machine. The comment drew several appreciative nods from around the chamber and even elicited a brief, warm smile from Queen Alara herself, helping to ease some of the building tension. Marcus felt quietly encouraged by the gradual positive shift in the room's energy, realizing that the combination of his practical, solution-oriented mindset and Pip's supportive, light-hearted presence was offering the court a unique perspective they had rarely encountered before, yet not every reaction was favorable. A determined faction of traditionalists voiced ongoing worries that allowing such direct and unfiltered human involvement might slowly weaken the powerful symbolic authority represented by royal markings, protocols, and ancient practices. They argued thoughtfully for stricter oversight measures or even a temporary pause in the technical exchange to allow for more extensive study and reflection. Queen Alara listened to every viewpoint with patient, balanced attention, her expression remaining carefully neutral while her crest's glow subtly intensified during moments of deeper consideration or concern. Marcus sensed the delicate balance at play within the chamber and chose his words with great care when given the opportunity to respond. He spoke sincerely of how meaningful collaboration between different worlds and cultures had consistently led to stronger, more resilient systems back on Earth, not through replacement or dominance, but by thoughtfully offering complementary strengths, especially when time was limited and problems were mounting. Pip nodded along enthusiastically from his shoulder, his small tail swishing in quiet agreement and providing silent but powerful moral support that helped Marcus remain grounded and focused amid the formal, high-stakes atmosphere. The session eventually extended into a scheduled recess period, during which smaller, more intimate conversation groups formed naturally throughout the chamber. Queen Alara approached Marcus near a scenic viewing alcove that offered a stunning panorama of the floating gardens far below. The twin suns bathed the entire landscape in rich, warm golden tones, highlighting the graceful arcs of the liquid light rivers and the interconnected crystal pathways that wove through vibrant, emotion-responsive flora. Your honesty and practicality during both the evaluations and these discussions have not gone unnoticed, she said quietly, her voice carrying a tone of sincere and growing interest. Many visitors come seeking personal advantage, political spectacle, or quick gains. But you approach our world with the clear eyes and steady hands of someone who genuinely wants to understand its workings and help improve them, before small instabilities grow into larger threats. Marcus appreciated the thoughtful acknowledgement deeply. He explained at greater length how his background in the shipyards had taught him the enduring value of identifying and addressing even minor issues early, whether they appeared in complex machinery or in the equally delicate relationships between different peoples and cultures. Pip listened quietly but attentively from his shoulder throughout, offering a tiny, encouraging squeeze with his claws whenever the conversation touched on more personal or reflective territory. When the recess ended and the full conclave resumed, the atmosphere carried a fresh undercurrent of genuine possibility and openness. Several advisors who had remained reserved or cautious earlier now began asking more constructive and forward-looking questions about potential joint technical initiatives that could address the fleet's challenges. Marcus carefully outlined basic concepts for new diagnostic protocols that could thoughtfully blend Earth's resourceful ingenuity with Aetheria's elegant sophistication, always framing his suggestions as respectful enhancements rather than outright replacements. Pip's occasional light, well-timed comments helped prevent the mood from becoming overly heavy or formal, transforming what might have been stiff negotiations into exchanges marked by mutual respect, curiosity, and a shared sense of purpose. Queen Ilara guided the entire discussion with skillful grace and leadership, ensuring every voice received fair consideration while gently steering the conversation toward productive, actionable outcomes. By the time the session drew to a close for the day, a tentative but promising framework for continued collaboration had begun to take clear shape, driven in large part by the urgent need to bring stability back to the Royal Fleet before the fluctuations could cause more serious disruptions. Marcus and Pip returned to their assigned quarters as the twin suns dipped lower on the horizon, casting long, beautiful, reflective patterns across the crystal structures and floating gardens. The little companion stretched his small wings and let out a deeply satisfied sigh. "Not bad for a full day of fancy talking and careful navigation, Marcus. You didn't even try to repair anyone's jewelry or sacred symbols this time around." Marcus smiled quietly, feeling a genuine if cautious sense of progress, despite the many challenges that clearly still lay ahead. The unexpected events set in motion by his initial instinctive action had clearly sparked deeper, more meaningful conversations about openness, innovation, and balanced change within Aetherian society. Queen Ilara's measured but increasingly supportive stance suggested she saw real potential in this cross-world exchange, and Marcus found himself becoming more personally invested not only in the technical repairs, but also in the genuine connections and understanding that were steadily forming along the way. As night gradually settled over the floating spires with soft, bioluminescent glows illuminating the landscape, he reflected thoughtfully on how one simple misunderstanding continued to ripple outward in waves, potentially reshaping alliances and perspectives in ways that felt both exciting and profoundly meaningful for everyone involved. The public demonstration phase began under the vast and impressive starlit atrium, an open-air venue where elegant crystalline arches framed spectacular views of the orbiting moons and shimmering energy veils that danced across the sky. Marcus prepared his presentation with meticulous attention to every detail, assisted closely by Pip, who perched on his shoulder and offered practical suggestions while working hard to keep the overall mood light and optimistic. The little companion had grown even more animated and engaged in the days since the conclave, his small form practically buzzing with helpful energy as he assisted in organizing diagnostic tools and creating visual aids that translated complex engine schematics into clear, elegant holographic displays accessible to all. Queen Ilara arrived accompanied by her senior advisors, her royal crest glowing with a steady, composed light as she took her designated place at the central observation platform. A sizable audience of nobles, skilled technicians, and curious citizens filled the surrounding tiered seating, their colorful robes creating a vibrant, shifting tapestry that moved softly with the ambient breezes and light. The atmosphere was thick with a mixture of anticipation, cautious scrutiny, and genuine hope, as this key event would clearly demonstrate whether Marcus's practical approach could deliver measurable, tangible benefits to Aetheria's fleet without disrupting the realm's carefully maintained harmony, especially as live data feeds continued to show the propulsion systems experiencing worsening fluctuations that could no longer be ignored. Marcus began the demonstration by walking the audience through a refined diagnostic sequence applied to a detailed scaled model of the propulsion system. He explained each step in clear, accessible terms that deliberately honored core Aetherian engineering principles while thoughtfully introducing a selection of simple efficiency improvements drawn from proven Earth practices. Pip assisted actively by pointing out key components with his tiny claws, adding brief, engaging explanations in his high, clear voice that made even the most technical details feel approachable and interesting to the gathered crowd. When a minor but realistic fluctuation suddenly appeared in the model, directly mirroring the real and escalating issues reported across the royal fleet, Marcus addressed it promptly and calmly with a non-invasive adjustment technique he had refined during his preparations. The system responded smoothly and immediately, its energy flow stabilizing in a visible and satisfying manner that drew spontaneous murmurs of approval and interest from many in the audience. Queen Alara watched the entire process with intense focus, her expression reflecting quiet but growing satisfaction as the demonstration continued without any significant missteps. The audience's initial reserve and skepticism gradually gave way to authentic curiosity and engagement, with several experienced technicians leaning forward noticeably to observe the subtle integrations and adjustments more closely. As the presentation advanced into its interactive segments, Marcus openly invited questions from the assembly. One noble inquired thoughtfully about the potential long-term effects of incorporating selected foreign methods, expressing understandable concern over any risk of eroding traditional Aetherian craftsmanship and expertise. Marcus responded with carefully chosen examples drawn from his own experiences, illustrating how collaborative approaches had consistently strengthened systems and crews across highly diverse environments back on Earth. He always emphasized deep respect for existing foundations as the essential starting point. Pip chimed in supportively at moments when additional clarification seemed helpful, his witty yet consistently respectful comments drawing light chuckles from the crowd that helped ease any remaining pockets of tension. The Queen herself posed a pointed question regarding the important balance between innovation and the preservation of cultural heritage, prompting Marcus to describe in greater detail how small, thoughtfully considered changes could often preserve the core strength and identity of a system while allowing it to evolve gracefully and safely, particularly when facing real and immediate dangers such as the current propulsion instabilities. Her crest brightened noticeably during his thoughtful answer, signaling a deepening appreciation for both his technical insight and his respectful perspective. The demonstration reached its dramatic peak when a live data feed successfully connected to one of the actual royal vessels currently experiencing significant propulsion fluctuations. Marcus guided the remote adjustment process with calm, unwavering precision, while Pip offered steady, encouraging words from his shoulder perch. The system's key readings improved visibly and measurably on the large holographic display for all to see, providing clear confirmation of the effectiveness of the combined techniques. A wave of genuine applause rippled through the starlit atrium as the audience witnessed the practical, real-world results firsthand. The mood shifted noticeably toward broader acceptance and optimism. Several advisors who had previously voiced strong reservations now nodded with measured but sincere approval, openly acknowledging the demonstrated benefits while still noting the importance of careful, phased implementation to protect long-term harmony. Queen Alara rose gracefully to address the entire gathering, commending the clear, collaborative spirit that had been displayed and expressing her official support for exploring further joint initiatives under thoughtfully guided protocols that would honor both worlds. In the weeks that followed the successful public demonstration, the joint technical initiative expanded carefully and methodically across several key vessels in the royal fleet. Marcus worked side by side with dedicated Aetherian engineers in the impressive orbital docks, where massive crystalline hangars hummed continuously with coordinated activity under the steady, watchful glow of the twin moons. Pip remained a constant and valued presence on his shoulder throughout the long shifts, offering small but often surprisingly insightful observations that helped bridge occasional communication gaps and lighten even the most demanding work cycles. Over time, the little companion became something of an unofficial mascot among the mixed crews, with his playful comments and enthusiastic reactions drawing warm smiles and greater ease, even from the most traditionally reserved technicians. Queen Alara made periodic visits to the orbital docks to observe the ongoing integration of the new diagnostic protocols with established traditional methods. Her regal presence always brought a heightened sense of focus and purpose to the teams, and her royal crest glowed with visible approval during these inspections, as measurable improvements in propulsion stability and overall energy efficiency became increasingly evident with each passing cycle. During one particularly extended and challenging work shift, a complex alignment issue arose that had stubbornly puzzled the Royal Engineering teams for many cycles despite their best efforts. Marcus approached the problem with his characteristic hands-on mindset, carefully combining detailed sensor data with intuitive, experience-based adjustments, while always showing full respect for established Aetherian procedures and safety standards. Pip played a crucial supporting role by navigating the tightest access points that larger hands could never reach, using his tiny claws to reposition delicate micro-components with surprising speed and precision. The successful resolution of the issue earned sincere and enthusiastic praise from the lead Aetherian engineer, who publicly noted how the combined efforts had achieved meaningful results in far less time than either approach could have managed alone. Queen Alara arrived shortly afterward to review the outcome in person. During a brief private moment near the observation gallery overlooking the busy docks, her eyes met Marcus's with a warmth that clearly extended beyond mere formal appreciation. "Your willingness to listen as attentively as you act continues to prove remarkably valuable," she remarked quietly, "especially when the stakes for the entire realm continue to rise with each unresolved fluctuation." Marcus felt the growing genuine connection between them, rooted firmly in mutual respect, shared curiosity about each other's worlds, and a common commitment to finding balanced solutions. Challenges and concerns persisted, however, as traditionalist factions continued to voice thoughtful worries during ongoing council sessions. Some expressed fears that overly rapid changes might unintentionally unsettle the long-held balances and harmonies within Aetherian society, prompting several additional review meetings where Marcus and Pip presented clear evidence of harmonious, respectful integration. The little companion contributed meaningfully by demonstrating through simple, relatable analogies how small, supportive actions could strengthen much larger systems without compromising their essential nature, ideas that resonated across cultural lines. Marcus consistently emphasized that true and lasting progress came from thoughtfully building upon existing strengths, rather than attempting to replace them outright, a steady philosophy that gradually won over more of the hesitant voices in the room. Queen Alara guided all of these discussions with wise, balanced leadership, ensuring that every step toward innovation served the greater harmony of the realm, while deeply honoring its rich and ancient heritage. Her consistent support created the necessary space for the initiative to continue expanding at a measured pace, slowly transforming initial skepticism into broader, more confident optimism across wider circles of Aetherian society. In the quieter, more personal moments between demanding work cycles, Marcus and Queen Alara increasingly found opportunities for deeper, more meaningful exchanges. They walked together along elevated crystal pathways that offered sweeping views of the glowing gardens below, where Pip would occasionally point out particularly interesting flora with his tiny claws or share amusing, light-hearted stories from their original voyage from Earth. The Queen listened with sincere and growing interest to detailed tales of Earth's diverse and resilient shipyards, the resourceful spirit of its people, and the everyday challenges of maintaining complex systems under pressure. In return, she shared rich insights into Aetheria's ancient traditions, the profound spiritual connection her people felt with the living energies that flowed through their world, and the careful philosophies that had guided the realm safely through many eras of change. These unhurried conversations gradually revealed deeper layers of curiosity, understanding, and shared values that continued to strengthen the bond first sparked so unexpectedly by that single instinctive touch on her crest. Pip observed these interactions with quiet satisfaction, sometimes offering gentle, unobtrusive encouragement through small gestures such as a soft wing flutter or a tiny approving thumbs up with one of his claws. As the joint projects continued to mature and expand, the tangible benefits became increasingly evident and undeniable across the entire royal fleet. Propulsion systems now operated with significantly greater reliability and efficiency, leading directly to smoother and safer trade routes, enhanced defensive capabilities that strengthened the realm as a whole, and a noticeable positive shift in public sentiment. More and more citizens began expressing open support for the continued collaboration through shared stories, artistic works, and community discussions that celebrated the unlikely but effective partnership between the human engineer, his tiny companion, and the people of Aetheria. Marcus felt a deep and lasting sense of fulfillment in being able to contribute something truly meaningful while learning and growing so much in return. Pip had evolved from a simple assigned guide into a true and irreplaceable friend whose loyalty, humor, and steadfast support had proven instrumental at every single step of the journey. Queen Ilara's wise leadership and genuine openness had created a welcoming environment where two very different worlds could meet with mutual respect and creative collaboration, successfully transforming what had begun as a purely technical visit into a lasting bridge of alliance, friendship, and shared possibility. The orbital docks gradually quieted as another full cycle drew peacefully to a close, the soft lights of the hangars reflecting beautifully off polished crystal surfaces and nearby vessels. Marcus stood for a moment with Pip still comfortably on his shoulder, looking out toward the planet's shimmering horizon where the twin suns were beginning their slow descent. The entire journey had tested his adaptability, deepened his appreciation for the beauty found in unexpected meetings, and reinforced his belief in the power of practical action guided by respect. Queen Ilara's continued personal presence and support in these efforts strongly suggested that the path ahead held even greater possibilities for growth, understanding, and cooperation between their two peoples. The gentle, constant energy currents flowing around them seemed to carry a quiet but unmistakable promise of continued harmony, built step by careful step through sincerity, thoughtful collaboration, and the small but vital contributions of an ordinary engineer and his tiny, steadfast companion. The final approval came during a grand and memorable assembly held once more beneath the starlit atrium, as the twin moons aligned in a rare and spectacular celestial display that bathed the entire venue in soft, ethereal silver light. Marcus stood proudly beside Queen Ilara on the central platform, dressed in a refined tunic that now felt comfortably familiar and natural rather than restrictive. Pip perched with obvious pride on his shoulder, his small wings folded neatly, and his tail giving occasional contented swishes. The gathered nobles, engineers, technicians, and citizens filled the surrounding tiers, their faces reflecting a warm blend of anticipation and genuine goodwill that showed clearly how far perceptions and attitudes had shifted since that very first unexpected moment in the royal hall. Queen Ilara addressed the full assembly with her characteristic graceful authority, highlighting the many tangible successes of the joint initiative and the spirit of open, respectful collaboration that had thoughtfully guided every step, ultimately helping to stabilize the fleet and prevent what could have become far greater troubles. Marcus spoke briefly when invited, expressing his sincere gratitude for the opportunity, while acknowledging the rich traditions and wisdom that made Aetheria so remarkable. He emphasized how working together across worlds had created solutions and strengths far greater than any single approach could have achieved in isolation. Pip added a short, heartfelt comment in his high, charming voice, thanking everyone warmly for welcoming both the engineer and his small companion with such kindness and openness. His words drew affectionate laughter and enthusiastic applause from the crowd, firmly cementing the little creature's beloved place in the unfolding story. As Queen Ilara formally announced the establishment of a permanent exchange program between Earth and Aetheria, designed to foster ongoing technical collaboration, cultural understanding, and shared innovation, the entire atrium erupted in dignified yet heartfelt celebration. Floating lanterns rose gently into the night sky, casting beautiful, dancing patterns of light that perfectly mirrored the growing sense of unity, possibility, and bright hope filling the space. In the quieter, more intimate moments that followed the official proceedings, Marcus and Queen Alara shared a peaceful, reflective walk together along a private crystal pathway overlooking the softly glowing gardens far below. Pip remained contentedly perched on Marcus's shoulder, occasionally humming a soft, simple tune he had picked up during their time on the planet. The Queen turned to Marcus with a gentle, sincere smile, her voice carrying deep appreciation. What began as a curious and unexpected misunderstanding has grown into something far more meaningful and transformative than any of us could have anticipated. Your practical heart, honest approach, and willingness to act with care have helped us all see new paths forward, and they arrived at precisely the right moment for our world. Marcus replied from the heart that the entire experience had enriched him in ways he could never have imagined before arriving, teaching him the profound beauty of bridging vastly different worlds through consistent respect, genuine care, and the simple courage to offer help when it seemed needed. Pip listened quietly to the exchange, his small but steady presence adding a comforting layer of familiarity and warmth to the moment. As they paused together to admire the rare alignment of the twin moons overhead, the soft, harmonious energy currents flowing around them seemed to hum gently in perfect sync with the peaceful atmosphere. The long journey had successfully transformed what started as an ordinary technical visit into a lasting bridge of friendship, innovation, and mutual understanding. It proved convincingly that even the simplest actions, when met with openness, sincerity, and a readiness to learn from one another, could spark profound and positive change that benefited everyone involved. Marcus reflected gratefully on how Pip's unwavering companionship had been absolutely essential at every turn, turning potential obstacles into shared adventures filled with humor, support, and growth. Queen Alara's strong leadership and personal warmth had created the ideal space for this meaningful connection to flourish, offering real hope for many cycles of continued collaboration that would strengthen and enrich both Earth and Aetheria far into the future. The night deepened peacefully around them, with bioluminescent blooms opening gracefully across the gardens and filling the air with their soft, serene light, creating a perfect, tranquil backdrop for new beginnings and enduring partnerships. Marcus felt profoundly grateful for the unexpected path that had brought him here, now surrounded by true friends and exciting possibilities that reached well beyond anything he had ever encountered in a repair manual or shipyard schematic. Pip gave his shoulder a soft, affectionate nudge with his small head, while Queen Alara's steady presence beside them promised that the full story of their shared future was only just beginning to unfold in wonderful and unforeseen ways. If you've enjoyed this tale of cross-world connections, unlikely friendships, and the power of practical hearts meeting open minds, consider joining our community HFY Soundscape for more uplifting stories that celebrate curiosity, collaboration, and the wonders that happen when different worlds meet with sincerity and courage. Your support helps bring even more such adventures to life.